is an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering Justified, Season 6, Episode 4, The Trash and the Snake. In this episode, what's that title mean anyway? Who's the trash? Is it Ava? Who's the snake? Is it Ava? Welcome to Unspoiled.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off who wants some. I'm fighting for my soul, God get at you, boy. You try to go, God fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off who wants some.
It's the very rare trash snake.
It sounds like something that, like, a boss in a game, that it's a snake that would have assembled itself out of trash. Like, it'd be a Habitica boss that we'd have to fight.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right?
That's exactly what it would be. That's exactly what it would be.
For those of you who do not know what Habitica is, I will not enlighten you because that will take me half an hour to sing its praises, but you should go find out and start using it.
Yeah.
So I'm Natasha. Hi, everyone.
And I'm Alan. Hello.
Hello. La, la, la. So, yeah, this episode, there's a dude that just blows himself up. That was a surprise.
There sure is. And
I
it's Jake
should have
Busey,
seen
which
that
is so much better.
coming.
Well, and you know what? Usually I will get to this at some point, whenever. But one of the writers of this episode was Ingrid Escajeda, who wrote the episode where the guy blows up on the landmine, too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, so he's just a big fan of surprise blow-ups.
She, but yes.
Or she. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Damn. That's kind of messed up.
Right?
But yeah, like, I guess I just assumed that this guy was just so wacky that he'd be around a little bit longer.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, it feels like when a character doesn't really seem well fleshed out or isn't that interesting, they're gonna get taken out because you could just stand to lose them. It's fine.
We're going to beam down to the planet. It's going to be me, Mr. Spock, Dr. McCoy, and Ensign Ricky.
I don't know who two of those people are.
Okay. 3 of them are really important characters on Star Trek. The 4th one is Ensign Ricky.
Who's Ensign Ricky?
He's the one who's going to die when they beam down to the planet.
Oh, so he's just like the one nobody knows about or cares about.
Yes. Do you know the term red shirt?
Yes, I do know that
Yes.
one. So he's the red
Yes.
shirt.
Yeah, he was the security guy who always wore red shirts. Yes.
So Ensign Ricky's the actor who plays the red shirts all the time?
No, Ensign Ricky doesn't exist.
So that's just a name that you just pulled out of nowhere?
Yes, Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, and Dr. McCoy are the 3 central characters in Star Trek.
So where did you get you just pulled the name Ensign Ricky out of the air? Ensign is not a name that anybody thinks of when they think of names.
Well, no, Ensign is a rank.
Oh! This is explaining why I didn't understand.
Yeah, this conversation has gone way that this joke you should have done polite laughter.
Well, I think everybody would agree with me that a joke is way funnier when you explain it for half an hour afterwards. So, hope everybody's still laughing.
And the more I think about it, I may have cribbed that off of Family Guy. I'm not 100% positive. Oh, but, yeah.
How dare you? But,
yes, usually the guys who get blown up by plastic explosives are not nearly as interesting as Jake Busey is in this episode.
You know, like, it's not... And that... I don't want to make that sound like this show, it's always, like, so obvious when somebody's going to die, because that's not the case. I mean, it'll still catch me by surprise. But it tends to be... A lot of times it will tend to be people that you kind of didn't like. And this guy, despite being obnoxious, was sort of likable.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to go the way he did, because there's a certain tone, there's a sense of satisfaction when some of these people die suddenly. There's like, and I'm not sure if that's me putting it on the show or if the show is implying it at times, that they're just like, hey, we know you're all sick of this guy because he's the worst. We're just going to have him suddenly die. So I think that's what it is, that I didn't really feel that way about him. So I just didn't sense that was about to be a thing at all. And I know, sorry guys, this is like halfway through the episode that we're talking about this, but that is a pretty important and memorable event. So I had to mention that out of the gate.
Yeah, so let's rewind, shall we? Peas and carrots. So yes, this is season 6, episode 4, The Trash and the Snake, written by Chris Provenzano, who has been with us for a long time. This 9th episode of 11. He goes all the way back to Long in the Tooth and The Hammer back in season 1.
Wow, okay.
And Ingrid Escajeda, this is her last episode. Again, she did Loose Ends, which is the first episode where Ellen May becomes like a real character, where they have the botched robbery, and the hooker gets shot, and that's the one with the landmine where the guy blows up. She did Foot Chase with Gerald McGraney, and when he cuts off he gets his foot cut off to go on the run.
Oh, that was awful. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, she wrote that one, and Kill the Messenger last season, where Allison got ran off the road. Those were all her stuff. So she writes some good stuff.
Yeah, but I'm like, still, you're like, Foot Chase, and I'm just like, oh, like, not only was that episode hard to watch in many ways, but it was called Foot Chase, which I remember at the time just being like, oh, you people.
And this was directed by Adam Arkin, who was Theo Tonin on the show, and this was his 8th episode out of 10 he will eventually direct.
Right on.
So we start off essentially where we ended last episode, just, a few hours later, in Boyd and Ava's hotel room. And Ava's sleeping, and Boyd is watching her again. Yeah. And she
Guys, why are they so sweet together, and then they have to do this to me? It's so mean.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, she wakes up, though. They make some pillow talk, I guess. And Boyd, though, has to go. He has a text message from Duffy that Duffy is downstairs waiting.
Duffy just popping up made me super nervous.
Okay.
I think now the way that things have gone between the two of them, I'm just not sure where anybody stands with anyone anymore.
That's fair.
So, he just decides to like show up, and I'm just like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? But yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to register my feelings that I had earlier of being totally excited that Boyd and Duffy are working together have now mutated into something suspicious and upsetting.
I get it. Well, let me ask you, why do you think that was? What was there? Is there a fulcrum this turns on? Is it Catherine Hale? Is it?
I think it started with fucking what's his name that got blown up with a pack of cigarettes.
Picker.
I think it was Picker, who just like poisoned things between them to such a degree. Like things were bad with the fucking. You know what? Never mind. Picker was the one who pushed it over, but it was the fucking crows. They fucked it up. And
okay.
Once the crows started to make Boyd look bad, that's when because that is the thing. Like, it's just like watching your, night and your day managers. And your night manager is a guy that you really like, but all your coworkers are garbage. And he's working so hard. And yet it looks like he's a fuck up because everybody else is terrible. And they always stick the worst people on the night shift. That's not universally true, but at the type of job that I had at the time, it was because we had less people at night. So they would just stick like everyone who kind of underperformed in the night shift. So that's what I feel like with Boyd is that, it's somebody that like he's terrible, but you're still rooting for him. And then these assholes come in and just do whatever the fuck and ruin a relationship that could have worked out. Like things weren't going well, but I felt like it was salvageable, and that just kind of got ruined. They're still trying to work together now, and I just don't see it continuing for much longer. I feel like they're going to cut ties with each other at some point fairly soon. Like, I don't really know what that'll look like because they both want to get into that vault, and they both know that vault is there. So all I can think is that Boyd's going to kill Duffy off at some point.
Oh, okay.
I really don't want that to be the thing because I love Duffy and I don't want the show to be without him. I don't really want Boyd to like kill a partner either, because I feel like that's a way bigger deal in some ways than what he's done before. But I don't know if there's not room enough in this town for the both of them. You know?
I can totally see that, and I think you're right. I mean, their relationship right now is in a very different spot. You just had me thinking about the end of season 4 with Ava being hauled away, to jail, and Duffy sitting Boyd down saying, we're going to work together and you're about to be a very rich man. Versus the end of last season where, Boyd has to hold them at bomb point to make sure that he leaves the hotel room alive. And yet they are still working together. So, it's a lot more fragile than it used to be. And Duffy does have other people whispering in his ear now that he didn't have a season ago. And
she's smart, too. So that's why I feel like I think it's going to reach a point where Boyd may have no other option but to kill Duffy. Or Catherine, but Catherine's not going to get killed by Boyd. That's not happening. If she gets killed, it'll be either because she decided that she had to go or purely by accident. There's no way somebody takes her out. If somebody takes her out, from what I know about her right now, I will be disappointed. But, maybe something will come to light that will make me change my mind about her competence and abilities. But right now I'm just like, she gets through everything. She'll be fine.
She is a survivor, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. So Boyd takes off, and Ava meets Raylan in the stairwell. And she confirms that she and Boyd are sleeping together, and that leads to some fencing between the two of them. Mm-hmm. And then she drops the Avery Markham bomb on Raylan.
Which I really thought Raylan was going to have more of a reaction to, but for him, it's also just like, well, that's a slightly familiar name.
Yeah.
There wasn't this big, oh, shit, It was just sort of like, huh. So I was a little disappointed, to be honest, because I expected this dude to have more of a reputation. And I'm not saying that I'm disappointed in that he doesn't, because let's face it, if you don't have much of a reputation, probably you're doing your job better, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So in that sense, I think that is a good sign for the character. But I just kind of wanted Raylan to have more. I like seeing Raylan get thrown off. That's what it is. I like seeing Raylan unsure of himself for a second. Mm-hmm. So when he just kind of is like, huh, that's familiar. There's no panic. There's no, oh shit, this is different than I thought. He just is kind of like, well, that's something to think on. And that's not satisfying for me at all. I want to see Raylan just get kind of shoved around for a change. That's
fair. And I think you're right. I mean, in this, I love first the description of Avery Markham, the smell of sulfur to him. I like that,
that's right.
That epithet. But Raylan, his reactions really, he appreciates getting to know the name of the guy calling the shots.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And even though Raylan maybe doesn't know who Markham is, he is able to figure out that everything that's unfolding here is because Boyd didn't know who he was robbing.
Yeah.
When they took that bank.
Which is a pretty sloppy thing, to be honest. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Boyd trusted, and that's always a mistake.
True.
So Ava comes back into her room and finds Catherine Hale waiting for her.
Oh, and can we talk about the fact that she just met Raylan in the stairwell in the very building she's staying at with Boyd?
Yeah.
Because holy shit, is that a risky move. I was floored that she did that. That just... I don't care if he's supposedly out. You never know. And this is probably evidence of me having an anxiety problem, because I can imagine within 30 seconds, 7 different scenarios that send Boyd back in and the elevator's busted, or he just doesn't want to wait for the elevator. So he forgot something. He's going to use the stairs and run it back, or anybody else is going up there. She could have, Catherine's sitting in her room. What if Catherine decided to use the stairwell instead of the elevator? What if one of the maids is holds the door open for just a little too long and Catherine's walking by?
they have that moment where the cleaning lady backs into the door
Yeah.
of the stairwell, and they both jump.
And
they're like, shit.
all she has to do is have her cart in the door for a little too long, and somebody's walking by, and they're right there in clear view. Like, it just made me angry that she did this. And it made me angry that Raylan apparently, like, either he agreed to it or he was the one who called the meeting there. And either way, dude, be a little bit more careful. I don't know.
No, I can't argue with you. I didn't dwell on it that much, but yeah, that's pretty flagrant.
You know?
So,
Anyway.
yeah, it seems like it went all right, though. And yeah, when Ava comes back, Catherine is waiting for her in the room. Mm-hmm. And is it possible Catherine's the snake in the title?
I kind of wonder that too. It could be. Listen, Catherine, I am a tiny bit in love with her. Is she so sinister or what? Like,
right?
And the way that she smiles the whole time, like, she basically, she's like if a criminal had stepped out of like a Jane Austen novel, where she can smile and be super polite and the double speak and everything, and yet probably would also put a bullet in a person's head and be totally fine with that. You know, like, yeah. I kind of love her. So yeah,
and that's what I said last episode. She uses that Southern hospitality as a weapon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she catches Ava totally off guard.
Yeah,
Ava is way quicker than I definitely ever would have been in that situation, though.
I straight up did not know what she was going to say when she's like, "Oh, I just went out for a smoke." I was like, "Oh, that's a good one." Like, I didn't know what she was going to say.
Yeah. And Catherine is ostensibly there just to invite her to lunch, which Ava's totally fine with. But yeah, she's got that smile and those big sweet eyes that are just, it's such a farce.
Yeah.
And she makes sure to note as she leaves that, oh yeah, you actually left your cigarettes right there. So isn't that funny? See ya. Bye.
And like every time that Ava covers, she does it well enough that I'm like, okay, I'm not stupid enough to think that Catherine's fooled, but I think that it's enough to keep her not exactly 100% sure. Like, I think Catherine's operating from 85% certain that she's a double agent, and I think that Ava is doing just well enough that she's keeping that 15% for herself. But it's just barely, you know, like every time there's just a thing that she just missed, and I'm like, oh, Ava. And again, like you said, she's still so quick, so much quicker than I would have been, that I can't even be mad at her because she's doing better than I would be. But then this thing happens and I'm just wincing for her so bad.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So we leave the hotel and we go to Art's house, where Art is making Raylan and he breakfast.
Oh my God. Art, I love you the most. I missed you, buddy. Missed you so.
Yeah, he is. He's cheating on his recovering from a gunshot wound diet, and they are discussing Art's recollections of Avery Markham and Grady Hale. Excuse me, of Avery Markham and Grady Hale. And it turns out that Markham disappeared right when Grady went to jail. So, is it possible that Avery flipped on him?
Yeah. How about that? And apparently Catherine believes that. Because she's just like, oh yeah. Oh, I know all about that shit. He thinks that I've forgotten. That's cute.
So, yeah, and Art also in the course of this conversation warns Raylan that essentially he's getting lost in the weeds. He's supposed to be pursuing Boyd Crowder. Mm-hmm. And he needs to concentrate on arresting Boyd Crowder so he can go to Florida.
Which, I mean, he's not wrong, but also, like, how do you think that this isn't gonna be tangled up together? Like, Boyd robbed them. So whether or not it was intended to be mixed up together initially is kind of beside the point now. Like, you're gonna have to keep an eye on both parties because it's clear that Boyd has gotten himself involved, even though it wasn't on purpose. So they're gonna be after him to a degree. Like, I don't know. I understood what he meant in a general way, but I didn't feel like he was being very practical.
I think that's true when we've seen Art make, declarations like that before, but us being over Raylan's shoulder, we can see why Raylan's doing the things he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But Art isn't wrong that Raylan, he's a dog with a bone, and that's
True.
just he's not going to let that go. So, yeah, it is yet another warning that Raylan seriously needs to go to Florida.
Raylan needs to seriously go to therapy. Like, this guy is just such a disaster. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Oh, wait, and this scene also, by the way, does have the title of the episode in it.
Oh, it does?
Yes, when they are talking about the your mama asks you to take down the trash, you do as she says, but if you see a copperhead on the way out, you don't go back inside.
Okay.
Yeah, she says you take out the trash and the snake.
How did I not even remember that? Because that's a memorable, like, weird analogy to make, so I don't know how I just totally forgot about that when I read the title, but yeah, I didn't even think of it.
Yep.
Huh,
so,
okay.
Yeah, and actually, it flashed across the subtitles as I'm watching the episode.
Gotcha.
I was like, ooh. So that is apparently the meaning of the title, is that we are now learning a little bit more about the trash surrounding Raylan's snake. So at the end of this scene, we go to credits, we come back, and Raylan and Tim are meeting again with the real estate agent, Calhoun Schreier, to talk about his blackmail ledger.
Yeah, this was kind of a great scene.
Okay.
Because I didn't expect this guy. First of all, he's more helpful than I kind of expected him to be. Also, I love that he's putting up this sort of front of like, I'm helpful, but like against my will. And then he just drops that fucking couple dying.
Yeah.
Like, it gives me the impression that he's a little bit smarter than he lets on, or at least has more of a sense of self-preservation than he lets on, or
that one's definitely true.
Like, just overall, I feel like he's just a little bit more savvy than I think I gave him credit for about everything. And the casual way in which he's like, well, this couple, it's a real shame. And then just is like, yeah, so they were probably murdered, whatever. I gotta go. Like, all right. Yeah. I mean, I think that he handled that in the best way that he could have for the circumstances, to be honest. Like, that is a big fucking thing to know, that could be what happened to them, like, Jesus. We had talked when that happened about how this was even going to be set up, because both of us, I say that like you hadn't seen it. I had been like, I don't know how they set up this to look like it's an actual accident, because
I couldn't remember, to be honest with you, because you put out that much plastic wrap and my mind goes to Dexter.
Right. So... Exactly. And I was like, if they are killing them in a way that sheds that much blood, it just doesn't make sense to me that people are going to buy it as an accident, but they can't be that blatant. So I was just going in circles. That probably is why I was like both of us, because I think I remember you being like, to be honest, I don't remember.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just really like, that is a fucked up thing to be aware that it happened, and also know that you're somehow like involved in this, and they were your friends, and now you're being questioned by the cops, and you like can't really say anything, but you're also about to go to your fucking friend's funeral. Like, that is an unfortunate series of events.
Yeah, I feel like with Calhoun, it really is like you said, he's more savvy than maybe he first appears. But I also think he is telling himself an awful lot of convenient lies.
Yeah, yeah.
So that way he can still go home at the end of the night and go to his buddy's funeral and still feel bad for them, but not feel responsible.
Yeah, I think that you are probably correct about that. It's so easy to tell yourself lies about things too. So, yeah.
So we learn in this scene that there's been more fires as of late than we're used to seeing in this area. And Thor's hammer says that it's people looking for insurance money.
I forgot about that. He's like, well, it's Murphy's Law. What? The simplest explanation. Occam's razor, Thor's hammer, whatever. That's not how that goes.
Yeah. And we learn a bit about what's in the ledger, that the names that are circled have been made an offer. The names that are circled with a line through it is they have made a second offer after some sort of horrible thing has probably befallen them. And then later find out that couple that we saw the other episode, their name is circled with 2 lines through it, and they just happen to die from carbon monoxide poisoning, and they likely have no next of kin.
I would love it if their names were circled and had 2 lines through it, and then next to it just said, and they called me a peacock. Like just a little extra, really petty thing. Just be like, they hurt my feelings.
Yeah, it's got circles and their names are X'd out, and there is a frowny face next to the names.
There's a poop emoji here
with angry eyebrows.
I love it.
We then go back to Ava and Catherine, and they're having their girls' lunch in the hotel room.
Yo.
Listen, and Catherine...
This scene got me so worked up. I was so worried. It's so tense. Oh my God. I could not. Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. So we come in and Catherine is talking about the power dynamics of cheerleaders, which is something I totally love.
Agreed.
And not only is it sort of keying into all of Ava's past, which Ava now knows that Catherine's been looking into her. But I also think it's really I just think it's one of those things that we see a lot in, obviously, high school dramas and stuff like that. But I find it really interesting. Are you familiar? I know you know the movie Mean Girls.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Did you ever read the book it's based on by any chance?
No.
It is based on a sociology book called Queen Bees and Wannabes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's all about the social structures of teenage girls. It's a really interesting book. I read it way before the movie ever came out, and when the movie came out, it's like, oh wow, they took this nonfiction textbook and put it into a really interesting, fictional movie. But yeah, like I said, I love it. They don't go deep into it or anything, but I just love that they bring it up because it is such an identifiable thing and such a powerful image for a lot of people that invokes a lot of emotions in different people.
Yeah, I mean, for me, especially when she says they didn't know how much power they had or how to use it. And I think about that all the time. That's something, I used to have this blog where I really reflected a lot on what it was like to be accidentally beautiful and not know that was what was happening and not understand that this was something that could go away. Because when it's something that you've just been your whole life and you have never known what it is like to be other than that, it feels like this is just how it is for everyone, and you don't realize, no, life is not like this for everyone until it starts to go away. And you start to be like, well, wait, what's happening? Hold on. And I think that is something that is really vilified in terms of women's power being seen as women leveraging their looks for things they want is really treated as sort of a shady thing to do. But in many cases, that's where we are taught most of our power is. We're not really schooled we're just not taught that everything else matters as much. How we look comes first, always. Like, I don't care who you are and how you were raised. If you are a woman, that shit probably came up first in most conversations when you were like growing up. And I like started to realize, because there were so many interactions that I had when I was a teenager or in my early 20s, where a guy would hit on me and then he would look really surprised after we kept talking. And I started to realize that, like, as I got older and I looked back, I was like, oh, he hit on me and didn't expect me to really, like, have a personality or talk back or be intelligent. And I'm not saying that in terms of, like, oh, I was unusual. I was an intelligent, beautiful woman. That's not what I'm saying at all, because plenty of women are. I'm saying that a lot of dudes who would hit on you didn't give a shit about that, and that didn't even occur to them as being part of the package that they were even interested in. So when it turned out that you had that extra thing, they were just kind of like, oh, this is kind of more than I was in for, but, well, yeah, maybe I guess we can go with this too. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
there's like, there's just a weird moment of like, you have this power that's immediate of just how you look and the reaction when you walk into a room. And then that extra step, which I think that is what Ava had, where she, and it's a hard thing because she wound up in such a bad situation too, but she did, as Catherine manages to point out, get herself out of it again in brutal fashion. So I kind of feel like Ava is a really good example of a guy who like hit on a woman, and she turned out to be, you know, a little bit more than he like expected. He just underestimated her because he saw the packaging, and the packaging was plenty for him. It wasn't even that he like didn't, it wasn't that he didn't expect her to be a certain way. It was just that was not a factor. You know what I mean? Right. And I definitely, Catherine has got to be like, the story that she tells about Hillary Clinton is so good. I mean,
yeah, I remember hearing that, honestly, back when Clintons were president. Mm-hmm. I remember my mother telling that joke.
It's a great joke. Like I was listening to it like, where is this going? And then when she got to the punchline, I was like, oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah. And my mother hated Hillary Clinton. Hated. To this day, still hates her passionately. But that's also totally, that joke, I think, defines her in a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Or at least did, certainly if you knew her in the 90s or were aware of her in the 90s.
Well, yeah. So yeah, I agree about the power dynamics thing being really interesting. I think it's a real shame that when and this is not just a societal thing, but it's just also nature. When you're young, you don't know what you have because that's what you've always had, and it's. And
I think it speaks to the people who were talking in the conversation as well. Again, Catherine Hale is, she's beautiful, but she is older. She's a grandmother at this point, which means she is not the way that she looked when she was 20 or even when she was 40, and she was able to just be her husband's arm candy, or at least appear as just her husband's arm candy.
Right.
Anyone expected of her. But I've seen, I obviously never had your experiences, but I have plenty of friends who are women who were, beautiful back in the day and just assumed like this is the way that everyone goes through life. And like, no, it actually turns out if you are good looking, no, you do actually tend statistically to make more money, to get promoted easily. People will turn and smile. People will choose you in class. Yep. People, those things. And it's not anyone's fault that they're beautiful, but it does give you
You're kind of going away there, buddy. You might want to lean in more on the mic. Sorry.
It's okay. But it gives you a different perspective on the world. And again, just given that the people in the conversation, I think also they must have if that conversation could have gone on, I think it would have been very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's even the moment with Albert Fikus when he's talking to Ava and he says, you were probably really pretty once, like he really qualifies it. And it's just so like, there's this simultaneous, like, it's such an awkward thing because part of you is like, ew, what the fuck? And another part of you is like, I'm still pretty though. Like you reject and also want the validation.
Right.
Yeah, it's super gross. That's the thing. Be pretty, but not too pretty. Be sexy, but not too sexy. Like, how do you find that line? And how do you know that you have found the line for yourself? Like, I was just talking to Owen about how when I was in my early 20s, I wanted to be a stripper, but I didn't want to deal with everybody's judgment on it. So I didn't do it. And I look back, I'm like, I should have fucking become a stripper. I should have just done it. I bet I would have had a blast. I would have made a ton of money. I should have just done it. But I just let myself get all hung up on somebody else's baggage. And, anyway, so I just really like the two of them. I hate that Catherine is in this position of power over Ava where she knows things, because I want the two of them to buddy up. I want Catherine to like mentor Ava,
Sure.
And I hate that they're at odds. It's just such a bummer to me. Like, be friends. Come on, guys.
Yeah. And this whole conversation, it really turns out, it's leading up to Catherine wanting to know what it felt like to blow a hole through Ava's husband's chest.
Yeah.
Because it probably felt really good.
That is some shit to say to somebody. Okay.
And as you said, the scene takes many twists and turns, including the fact that Catherine has a silver platter of pharmaceutical-grade cocaine.
I did not know what was under that lid. Like, what did you think when you first saw this? Did you think... I thought maybe a gun? I didn't know what the hell.
I assigned it absolutely no importance, and I feel like I was supposed to.
Well, I don't even mean like throughout the scene. Just when she points it out, are you wondering what's underneath this lid?
Oh, well, I don't think I had time to formulate anything. I kind of went like, okay. Well, I hadn't been. I don't know.
I got you. Yeah.
So, yeah, I had no good guess. I definitely did not guess pharmaceutical grade cocaine.
Well, you didn't? Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and Ava refuses and is then told, like, no, you're going to need this for what I've got planned.
Which, listen, nobody wants to be told that they're really going to need a bump of serious pharmaceutical grade cocaine. That's not something anybody's excited to hear.
Right. So we're going to come back and see about the cocaine and the wackiness. But first, we go to Duffy and to Boyd, and they are paying a visit to Wiz, who is Jake Busey, who, as you said, is weird and sort of enjoyable and sort of annoying. And that's Jake Busey, really, not Wiz. But, Wiz and his snake-wielding girlfriend.
Oh, my God.
Kind of an odd accessory to the scene.
Okay, that was so... I feel kind of bad about it. Like, I shouldn't be as delighted by it as I am. But it was such a cliched thing to do. She's literally, like, in a bikini top and jorts. And she's got a fucking snake draped around her. Like, she just walked out of a 1991 music video. And I'm so here for it.
Yeah, I was going to say white snake video.
There you go.
Yeah.
Her snake's not white, but that's fine.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a interesting introduction to the scene. And before going in, Duffy does warn Boyd that Jake Busey is annoying, but very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we meet him, and he's ridiculous. And he confirms that the Emulex that they've been talking about last episode will never work on the safe that they're trying to crack.
He does that annoying thing where somebody says something and then you just laugh rather than like tell them why it won't work.
Yes.
Oh, that's so infuriating. I hate when people do things like that. There are times when it's a genuine reaction that they're just like, oh my God, I can't believe you thought this thing. And they just start laughing before they can actually like answer you on it. But this is just him like having a bit of a power trip about it, and it made me so irritated, I swear to God.
Yeah, but that's what Jake Busey is good at, though, is like smiling and becoming a head full of teeth.
Oh my God, a head full of teeth.
That tends to be his thing.
Will you never say that again? That's like one of those like scary stories to tell in the dark illustrations. Like I just pictured. Oh, super, super creepy. Okay.
Yeah, that every movie he's in, that's just how he rolls. But he does know, after he stops laughing, where they can find another copy of the safe that they want to break into. and it's on the outskirts of town, so they can go there and they can do all the testing they want on it and never be interrupted.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Way convenient.
Yeah.
And that's something I never really thought about very much until I watched this season of this show. But just that, like, yeah, I guess the safe is just way too heavy to move, and so there's a big safe in this building. And if you're buying the building, you're buying a big-ass safe.
There was a when we bought our house in Philadelphia, the realtor office was in an old bank, and the meeting room where we signed our papers was inside the old vault, and you had to climb through this giant round vault door to get to this meeting desk that was like 10 feet long. It was awesome looking. Like, I can't lie, that shit was super impressive to look at. I think I took a photo of it when we went. I was just like, holy shit. But yeah, so that shit does, I would imagine you can't just, like, you'd have to have a specialist to come in and take that out, because the whole point of it is that it's difficult to get through it, right? So.
Yeah, that's probably true. There's in the center of Wallingford, if you ever find your way back there, there is an old bank that for a while, maybe 15 years ago, was a bookstore called the Book Vault. And it looked an awful lot like a bank, complete with giant safe and the whole deal, except it was a little family-owned bookstore. And
wait, what town is this in?
Wallingford.
The Book Vault was in... Oh, I know where you're talking about. It's near Archie Moore's, right?
Yes, right. Yeah, pretty much right next door. Yes. And so there was a bank, and then it was a bookstore, and I loved the bookstore and the whole bank motif. And now it's a real swanky restaurant, and I have only been there. Yeah, I've only been there twice, and it really doesn't feel like a bank anymore, and that's kind of a bummer.
Yeah, I remember I went to the Book Vault only once, but I remember when I went in, I was like, why don't I come in here more? And that must have been the problem. So
it was a great little bookstore, but it was not a great bookstore. It was when in a world of Barnes and Noble, like, you just couldn't compete with a mystery section that had 10 books in it.
Yeah.
So I always made a point of buying something when I went in, because I just try to support local businesses, but I was never like, oh, good, they have exactly what I wanted. Yeah. It was like, all right, let me go find something in the science fiction section, and I'll buy that.
Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
But yeah, so there was a big safe in it, and it was neat. We go back to Ava and Catherine, and they are coked up, and they are shoplifting from a jewelry store.
Can I just, like, this just gives me so much anxiety. I am not good about this kind of thing. Oh my God. I really thought they were going to get caught. I don't know why, but like, I did, you know. I think I thought that because the owner was acting so cool, that it was like just that he was just playing it cool to lull them. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. So you thought he was super suspicious and just not betraying anything.
Yeah, like, not even just suspicious. I thought he was familiar with her fucking tricks.
Okay.
But I should have known better. She wouldn't be where she is if she was that obvious all the time. Or, as it turns out, she would be, but he thinks that she can have him whacked, so whatever.
Yeah, that's just it. It turns out he is totally of the opinion that, he does know her tricks. He's just not going to call her on it.
Yeah. Which is like, I'm... on the one hand, neat. On the other hand, isn't that not great to, like, basically be only not held responsible because he's afraid? What happens when he's not afraid anymore? Like, if he's got her on camera or anything like that at all, that's a potential problem. Eventually, you know what I mean? Like, I probably not, but you just, again, this is why I would not be a good criminal, because I would just think of everything that could go wrong.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that Catherine would have taken the measure of this guy a long time ago and decided, this is somebody that I can go beat up on.
Yeah, probably.
You know, and I can and not just beat up on him, I can take his really expensive stuff. I could even do it with him looking at me if I really wanted to. But I'm going to hold on to this pretense of
Yeah.
we're here to actually shop. And she gets to scare Ava out of her wits to boot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, twofer. I didn't really think about it like that, but that makes sense.
Yeah. I do like her description of him later. I didn't copy down the exact description, but just the way that she discloses her opinion of him, and just this idea of like, oh yeah, we used to be super close, and then he fucking turned on me when my husband went away. Except he's afraid of me. He's a little pissant, and I'm taking his bracelet, so screw him.
Yeah, I mean, she calls it. He has me pulling these cheap, low class stunts like this.
Yeah.
Which I really liked, that she has this like memory of how it used to be, and this petty thing that she's forced to do is just, and it's not like she's forced. I'm using that word from her perspective. Obviously, she's not forced, but that she feels like she's been demeaned. It's pretty well done.
Well, I imagine as a criminal, you got to get your rocks off in some way. You have to be sort of a bit of an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, true.
And so for her, there must be a little bit of a thrill in that. Yeah, she's not robbing banks directly anymore, but I think you've got to have something like that in your blood. And that's just how she deals with that urge, maybe.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah.
It's a hard thing to relate to as somebody with acute anxiety, but sure, okay.
So we then go back to Raylan and Tim, and they visit the Hutchins place. This was the family that was killed. And I love, as they're getting out of the car, Tim is asking Raylan, so what's the story of Miss Hutchins? Was she the teacher who cared? She watered little Raylan so he could blossom? I hated her. She hated English, nearly turned me off of books. The only thing she taught me was to do a job, don't do a job just for the money.
I love that.
And then Tim follows with, well, now you're doing what you love. Miss Hutchins, American hero.
I love Tim the most. I know I say that every time, but I'm
Because
serious.
They only put him in the best scenes, and they give him the best lines. They've really turned that into, he's the guy who gets all the good lines.
Yeah, that's true. Oh my God, talk about good lines.
Yeah.
He talks about how he'd like to die, and then says, I want Sigourney Weaver to choke me out with her thighs. Yeah. And I don't know if you knew this. I think you did. Owen, big Sigourney Weaver fan. That's his celebrity crush. And I texted him the second that I heard that line. I was like, so somebody on Justified just said this, and this. And Owen just replied with the gif from Training Day of him going, my man. I was like, yeah, I thought you would like that one.
Yeah.
But it's a good one. It just is.
No, and I'm probably third or fourth in line behind Owen when it comes to Sigourney Weaver, but I know that he's way up there. She's way up there for him.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, so Tim's fantastic. I also love that the teacher who died, no, she wasn't actually the beloved teacher. She was the pain in the ass teacher.
Yep.
Yeah. But they're doing their job anyway. And they find some kind of residue on the window frames. And Tim sort of deduces that the windows were taped shut. And
yeah, this was some good detective work, buddy. What's up?
Right?
I was just not ready for this at all.
Yeah. And this is where they say, and I bet if you look, they're going to have no next of kin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just, even though we've heard that they had died, so we know that it happened, and we heard about how they died, I still didn't know what the fuck the plastic wrap was for. Right. So it's not until this moment that I'm like, oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And this also helps Raylan put together his theory about what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And Raylan's theory is that Avery Markham is buying up as much property as he can get his hands on, betting that pot is going to become legal in Kentucky, and then he's going to be set up with acres of prime farmland and make a mint.
Which is a really fucking huge gamble.
True.
Everybody just seemed... I wish that we had a little bit more background on why they are so sure. because this feels like such a huge thing to take on faith and be willing to literally kill for.
And, and I would assume that somebody in Markham's position probably does have more inside info than you or I would.
Mm-hmm.
But as they kind of say in the episode, I'll be really shocked if in the next 10 years, marijuana is not largely legalized everywhere.
Okay.
I just feel like it's happening a state at a time recently. It's been decriminalized, legalized. It's coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming. I think that for me, the bet that he's taking is that it's happening soon, and that he has the funds to hold on to this land for as long as he needs to. I mean, I assumed for a very long time every cigarette company on the planet has an entire marketing file on exactly how they're going to market their pot once they can sell it.
Oh my God, can you imagine? Like, imagine being the person that's setting up their marketing in the years before this is even a thing. And you're just like, what if you're just such a slacker and you're not really working on your marketing? And then all of a sudden it comes around that it's legal and you just have to like pull together this entire, like spearhead this project that you did not do shit to prepare for. And you're just like, oh my God, oh shit. Yeah, that's a bummer.
Yeah, I forget. There was a book or a show or something I saw where they were looking, it may have been Leverage. I don't remember. But it was a show where they were looking in a company's like private files and looking at all of the names for things that they had come up with, all the marketing strategies, all of the kind of the patents that they were ready to file on things that didn't exist yet, but they were waiting for the time when they would exist, and then they could just bring the whole thing to market. And I absolutely believe if you get large enough, that becomes a thing that you have. When you just have money to throw around, why wouldn't you? So, like, this is probably happening in the next 20 years, so let's get on it. Let's get ahead of the ball on this.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, just like the scope of some of the preparedness for certain companies. Yeah, that's just something that's, again, with the anxiety, just thinking about that. That's too much. I'm not ready. Don't make me think about it.
You need even bigger planner, Natasha. Your current planner is not large enough.
Sometimes it's too much.
So back at the Foundry, Duffy and Boyd talk about their after plans once everything is said and done here in Harlan. And we also learn about Win Duffy's love of surfing, which does not surprise Boyd and honestly doesn't surprise me.
I mean, he goes tanning. I know that that's not like, in and of itself, but it just does feel like that there's something that feels so right about that. Like, this is a dude who's he has been so laid back in so many ways and just rolls with things that, like, yeah, I could totally see that. Not specifically the surfing thing, because it's sort of undignified and he seems like somebody who's a little bit more conscious. The only person that he lets see when he's in his dick hammock outfit is Tony.
Yep.
What's his name? Mike? Tony?
Mike.
I call him Tony every time for some reason.
You do. It's Mike.
But he looks like a fucking Tony. I bet his name is Tony in real life. But yeah, I enjoyed this little look into his backstory,
Totally. He apparently also has trophies.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I like to think that they're right above his bed. Yeah. Somewhere that it's like really kind of a strange place for him. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So we also learn in this scene not to bring your cell phone too close to explosives.
Oh my
God.
God.
We lose poor Jake Busey in the blink of an eye.
I was just so not ready. Like, and he's yelling at them because he thinks that they forgot and didn't listen to him. But it turns out it's him.
Wait, is that right?
Yeah. Because he's like, I told you to leave your fucking phones in the car. And they look at each other like, what the fuck is he talking about? And then they look at him and he looks down at his chest and then boom.
You're right.
Yeah.
He checks his pockets right before he explodes.
Yep.
Ah!
That's him.
I completely didn't get that. I completely didn't get that. Oh, that's fantastic. But yeah, and according to my summary that I used to base my notes on, my notes say that he emulsifies, which is not a word I knew. Yeah, not a word I'd heard before.
Why did you have to say it like that? That's super gross.
Because I'd never heard it. And so I looked it up. And for those who, like me, were not familiar with that term, emulsion is a noun. It is a fine dispersion of minute droplets of one liquid in another, which is in which it is not soluble or miscible.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a water-based paint used for walls.
Yeah, like that's not exactly what happens here because the air is air and not a liquid. But it's still it is an evocative term to use.
Yeah, again, my vocabulary was expanded by Justified today.
Emulsify is one that I learned when I was in restaurants. There was this weird thing with the chefs where they would make big batches of dressing and they would see if they could get it to not break, because that's what it was called when it would actually, you would overmix it and it would finally separate.
Okay.
And it was this weirdly like competitive thing where they would have a big batch of dressing with this huge immersion blender, and like 3 of the prep chefs would be around watching, go, oh, you broke it. It's fucking salad dressing, guys. But they would get very invested. Anyway.
Amanda's brother is a chef. I'll have to ask if he did anything like that or does anything like that.
Because it is
really
a tricky process to emulsify certain things. Is like, if you mess it up, then you have to like add. It's sort of like when you have you ever made icing with powdered sugar before?
I have seen it made. I have definitely not done it myself.
Okay, those of you who've done it know, if you add even a tablespoon too much water, good luck. Because you basically have to add another 3 pounds of sugar to thicken it at all. It's just the kind of thing. And that's how it is with like emulsifying something. If it breaks, you need to add cups and cups more of oil or whatever water base you have in there to fix it. It's just such a pain in the ass. So that's probably why they got kind of weirdly competitive about it, just because it's such a drag. To fix.
Well, and I think it's one of those specific things that is really difficult to do, but most people would not understand. Mm-hmm. So when you get around people who do understand what a delicate process it is,
yeah,
I can definitely see that turning into something competitive or something interesting. It's like when you watch mixed martial arts long enough, or you do mixed martial arts and you can watch UFC and just not see 2 guys wriggling around on the ground.
Right.
You go like, oh, wow, did you see what he just did? And everyone goes, no. You're like, no, but he hooked the ankle over the other ankle, and that means he's not going to be able to break out of the knee bar he's about to do in 3 moves.
Bless your heart.
Or whatever. I was talking out of my ass there, but
or whatever. No big deal. I'm not totally a huge fan or anything, and just haven't seen something recently and don't have it on my mind.
All right, different example. Have you ever watched video game championships? And the way that people lose their minds over watching other people play video games?
No.
Okay. There's a video I'll try to find and send you of a Street Fighter II championship from about 15 years ago, where you see one guy at full health and one guy with 1 hit left blocking a move, and the entire crowd is having they're going into apoplectic fits. And if you don't know what you're watching, which I didn't, you would you're like, what? I don't get it. And it turns out that the guy with full health was doing a 35 hit combo, and the other guy has to hit the block button just at the right time every single hit of that combo in order to block every single one and stay alive. And he manages to do that, which tires the guy out, which allows him to come back and completely destroy the guy and win in the space of 10 seconds. But if you don't actually know what you're watching, suddenly you're just like, I don't get it. What am I missing?
Okay. So
it's
anyway,
just like salad dressing. Anyway.
It's exactly like salad dressing. Let's just, I think that's the comparison we can make from now on to most things. Well, like salad dressing. And people will be like, what is she fucking talking about?
It's a podcast. There's an episode. Go find it. I put it on my Twitter.
Right, exactly.
So yeah, we leave the emulsified Jake Busey, and we go to prison, where we once again get a visit from Dickie Bennett.
Yeah.
Sigh.
Has he gotten 10 times more theatrical, or is that just my imagination? Because holy shit.
Jeremy Davies must be must enjoy this role so much.
I just can't remember him being like this. Like, he was a pain in the ass, but this is some straight up, like, he might as well be, he's like a preacher or something.
Oh, yeah. Him and Raylan do this whole, like church on Sunday call and response thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is hysterical. And I can't imagine Raylan playing into any of this in prior seasons, but it's pretty funny.
Yeah, this is just like he sings a song about how he's not going to cooperate, and like it's a song that he made up. Like, why? Yeah, this guy. Am I right?
And I love he wheels in and he throws his hands in the air and goes, "What up, pimps?"
This is what I mean. Who are you?
And I also do love, though, he stops to shame Raylan for making jokes about sexual assault in prison.
Oh my God, that was pretty good though.
And it was kind of like, thank you, because that's not cool, man.
Yep. I appreciate it. Yeah. Somebody recently messaged me on the show on Facebook and was like, "Hey, are you considering ever covering Oz?" And I was like, "Well, it is on the list at some point, like to look at covering it." And they replied, "All right, cool. Just keep it in mind. And in the meantime, don't drop the soap." And I'm like, you must not know me that well if you thought that was the joke to pull with me on this. I am not the one. It's no.
Yeah. But it turns out Raylan and Tim are here. Raylan's trying to bribe Dickie with cookies and donuts for information.
Yeah, that was pretty ill-timed, apparently.
Yeah, and it turns out Dickie has been diagnosed with diabetes, so no go. But yeah, he has recently sold his land. And it turns out it was not to Avery Markham. It was to LM Consolidated.
Yo. What a dummy.
And yeah, about 10 seconds after that, Raylan figures out that LM stands for Loretta McCready. Huh.
And Dickie just is floored because he didn't do the most basic of research, apparently. Because it seems like Raylan figures that shit out really quick, so...
Well, in Dickie's defense, Loretta's like 17.
Mm-hmm.
Who hasn't consolidated anything at 17?
It's not even like that he is... Like, that he should have known Loretta was after him. It's just like, how are you... Like, the whole thing is that he's doing this to like, be petty, and then it turns out that he didn't even, like... He wasn't even petty enough. You look into who it is, right? Like, just... I don't know. Whether or not you really suspect something or not, it's sort of just what you would want to know, I would think. In a situation this specific, not like if I was just selling my house anyway, that's one thing. I don't care. Somebody made an offer. All right, we'll take it. But with the very specific way in which things were going down with him, I would feel like that's something that you want to know. But
yeah, but Dickie being Dickie.
Indeed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally okay with any deal that winds up with him.
Oh, I'm not saying this in terms of writing. I just mean, in terms of him as a person, as a character. Yeah. I think this is in character for sure, but just come on, Dickie.
Yeah, and speaking of Loretta, she is being pitched by Ty Walker, and she looks unimpressed with his offer. And,
can we talk about her fucking stank face? Because I get the feeling that Ty is more afraid of her than he's been of anybody so far. Even Raylan. Like, there's a certain kind of way that he talks to her, and it might just be because she's so young, but he feels like he's just totally unsure of himself here. And when she's like, "Oh yeah, we're done." What? We're not done? Like, he seems like hurt. I don't know. There's just the two of them is very interesting to watch.
I totally agree. I think he's off his game because she's a kid. Like, I think he can deal with dealing with adults.
Mm-hmm.
He can deal with senior citizens.
Mm-hmm.
He clearly has no problem doing physical harm to adults and senior citizens.
Right.
But suddenly he's trying to throw his pitch at a girl who's not out of high school.
Mm-hmm.
And that's enough to throw you off entirely. But then she makes teenager face the entire time and apparently says nothing. Except she offers him some of her apple pie.
Which sounds really filthy when you say it like that. Please never again. Also,
deal. Okay. I'm fine with that.
And yeah, I was pretty sure she was going to try and poison him. I really did think that was what was happening. And was a little annoyed with Raylan interrupting. And then it turns out that was not what was happening, and I was kind of disappointed.
Yeah, but she's got some of those special glasses on the bottom of that shelf with the liquor, though.
Yeah,
clearly.
I am proud of her that she wasn't going to do that, because it turned out to be very lucky since things didn't go the way she had planned. But I really had sort of expected it,
Yeah.
Although, what would she have done with the body? Like, I don't know what she's thinking. So, yeah, that wouldn't make
She's
sense.
17. She's not thinking.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Mag's got the daughter she always wanted. No question.
Bless.
Yeah. But, she pours Walker a drink, and he sniffs the jelly jar and is about to take a sip when there's a knock on the door. It's Raylan and Tim. And Ty looks really frustrated and calls Avery Markham.
Mm-hmm. Which, again, I was really unprepared for. I figure these guys show up when you're trying to make a deal. She isn't interested in said deal. The fucking U.S. Marshals show up. You leave. Right? You just go. Why call your boss to come in here with the police there?
Well, that was what Raylan said the last time when they showed up in the pizza portal was, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to your boss. And this could be making clear to him, this guy is not going away until he gets to talk to my boss.
I guess. All right.
I mean,
I didn't really put that together at the time. So if that is the case, I would have liked to hear that really be explicitly said.
I'm freestyling here, but
okay. It just felt so abrupt because the scene cuts after he calls his boss and then his boss is there. I expected the call to just be hey, we lost one, and then cut scene and we're somewhere else with different people, or he's gone already and it's just Raylan talking to her. But no, it's Avery showing up, which I was just so confused by.
Yeah. And again, I think this might be the first season of the show where he's our big scary dude and he has no problem coming out to talk to whoever he needs to talk to.
Yeah. Raylan
clearly does not intimidate this man at all.
Yeah. And he knows all about Raylan, too, as it turns out.
Sort of, kind of, because we find out he shows up and we have this conversation. Essentially, it's between Avery and Raylan, and Ty and Tim and Loretta are watching from the wings.
Mm-hmm.
And Markham has a history with the McCreadys and the Bennetts, and he even knew a couple of Crowders, but he doesn't know any of the Givenses, which Raylan gets a kick out of because Arlo sucks and always did.
Yep.
But yeah, he knows an awful lot. He even knows to check the glass on the apple pie.
Which is serious. This is just life knowledge stuff that
seriously,
no matter what, you just have to have lived a certain amount of time before you get this good.
Right. And yeah, Raylan and Avery, it's an interesting conversation to watch them square off. But they dance around for a bit, and Raylan finally shuts down negotiations, and he orders Markham out. And
go ahead.
Avery, okay, that's right. And on the way out, Avery burns one to help him think, quote unquote. And he asks if Raylan's going to bust him for it, and Raylan just looks at him and says, "No, not for weed."
Yep.
And says, "Okay, I'll be seeing you." And
He's
they're out.
so smug.
So smug.
Oh my god.
This is a man who is secure in his position.
It is pretty sexy, I'm not going to lie.
I get it. I'm turned on. Absolutely.
Just a man who is just yep, no, I got this. It's fine. It reminds me of I one of the first times that I ever remember my mom getting when we were watching a movie was The Untouchables, when he's got his sights on the guy on the stairs and he's like, "You got him? I got him." And he takes the shot. You know that spot?
I do.
And my mom was just like, "God damn." Just like how confident he is with, "Yeah, I got him." Like, and yeah, there's just something about a man who just, it's not even that he's taking care of business. It's that in his mind, business is already taken care of. Like, that is very appealing.
Yeah, confidence is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the bad guys leave, and then we go back to Ava and Catherine, and they are unwinding in Catherine's hotel suite.
And Ava seems to almost like her.
Almost, they seem like they've had a pretty good day.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the Hillary joke shows up,
Mm-hmm.
and she says this is very much like her and her husband. He was the face. I got it done.
Mm-hmm.
And then she goes on to explain about her and Avery and how she was sleeping with Avery as a way to basically balance the scales,
Mm-hmm.
and that he is the best lover she's ever had,
Mm-hmm.
Even though she knows that he was the one who ratted out her husband and got him killed. And we also hear then that the big reason that she's setting up to rob Avery is, a man as much as kills your husband, you got to do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, that is some long-term thinking.
Seriously.
And dedication. Like somebody that basically your husband's already dead and the guy's the best lover you ever had. Most people would just let that shit slide. Like and it doesn't seem like she was particularly in love with her husband. It's hard to know at this point, but it just feels more like, well, it's an obligation. I have to do this.
Can't let it stand.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And even beyond all of that, technically Grady died in prison, and they claimed it was a suicide, but Catherine thinks that's unlikely. And she very well could be right,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not even like someone walked up to him and shot him or anything.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, it's her going off of the assumption that Avery had him killed.
Yeah. Or at least that he put him in a position to be killed very easily by somebody else.
Yes.
Either way, yeah.
Yes. So Ava is still a little bit unsteady, but Catherine tells her she's got to go. She has a massage appointment. She thanks Catherine for an interesting day.
Right.
And then just as she reaches the door, Catherine stops her and notes just how lucky it was that the jail guard had a crisis of conscience and came clean.
Yeah, man.
Not just the jail guard, Albert Ficus. She knows his name. Yeah. And she would have no problem finding him for Ava if she ever wanted to thank him for telling the truth.
It would be a breeze. Yeah. This like, it kind of annoyed me, to be honest, because like I said, I wanted them to be friends. I wanted her to mentor Ava. I kind of thought, even if she wasn't trusting Ava necessarily, that she was like figuring out how she could work this all to her advantage. And then it seems like they're getting along for a second. And then she has to bust out with this shit and remind me, oh, no. That's not how I play at all. I'm like, God damn it, Catherine.
Yeah. And Ava is terrified.
Yeah.
But manages to keep smiling as she leaves.
Yeah. Ava's acting this season, I just think is so outstanding.
She's really good.
Holy shit. Like, the scene where she's packing, I just, and I had gotten, and I'm sorry to whoever this was, because I get so many DMs that I can't reply to all of them all the time. But somebody had messaged me about being on Justified and that they liked the show and stuff. And they sent a message a bit ago that was like, Ava's annoying me this season. And I was just like, oh, I can't even respond to this right now because I have way too much to say. But I just think this season is Ava's, like, it's her opportunity as an actress to just really put it all out there. And she is. I think she's like hitting it out of the park, because how the scene with Boyd where she's barely holding it together, I cannot, like, it felt like I was having deja vu to parts of my own life. and her just desperately upset and terrified and worried and on the edge, and she can't let any of it show. And then he has to say like the exact wrong thing to her about how we're not going anywhere, and like everything is falling apart. I thought she was amazing. I really did. You see her breaking into pieces in front of your eyes, you know? Like,
oh, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I think that this actress is, what's her name? Joelle Carter. I think that she is really, really good at face acting.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, like, I feel like she only has maybe 2 tones in her voice.
Yeah.
And that might be what irks some people. But I think if you just look at her expressions and the way that she's able to use that is, yeah, I think she's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
So we have, that's the last scene of our episode that we were just talking about. But we have 2 quick scenes before this. The first is Raylan having a paternal talk with Loretta about not being in the weed business.
OMG.
And Loretta is, because as every 17-year-old would, completely and totally ignoring him.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets this panicked phone call. Just, she knows.
Mm-hmm. And Raylan is just so not taking this seriously enough. Like,
yes.
He's acting like she's just, oh, you're just emotional right now. Calm down. I'm sure it was nothing. Dude, trust this woman.
He's got such a chip on his shoulder.
You know, like, he
has way too much invested in her personally. As Art said back in the first episode of the season, there's no way that he ever should have been signed off on as her guardian in this CI. It really is just poor planning. Because, he can't take her seriously. He cannot look at her objectively.
And it's so frustrating because, like, you'd think that with all the shit that she has been able to, like, live through and pull off, that knowing that would make him take her even more seriously in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But you know, it's just like the opposite.
But I'll also say, at the start of this episode, when they meet in the stairwell, you know, Ava has to start out by saying, yeah, and I'm sleeping with Boyd. And doesn't that make you kind of jealous? Don't you wish it was you and me with a bottle of champagne and a pepper?
Mm-hmm.
You know, she can't be objective with him either.
But that's not her job.
I don't think it, but it is still just from a purely operational point of view of what you want to get from her. I mean, maybe Raylan's the only person that can push her in the way she needs to be pushed. I don't know. But the fact that she can't deliver the information that she needs to deliver and then get back to, you know, being their mole,
mm-hmm.
Maybe she should be meeting with Tim or with Rachel or with any of the other people that we've seen for 6 seasons who don't get names.
Right.
You know, there must have been somebody who could do this instead of Raylan, that she's not going to have to go and snipe about their love life from 5 years ago.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's just a bad match. But again, you're right. It's on Raylan to be the level-headed one here and to recognize the situation for what it is.
Yeah, I mean, even if she is wrong, what's the harm in just double checking that she's wrong? Like making her feel safe. It's just comes down to him just not wanting to put forth the effort, which is pretty shitty. So maybe you don't have CIs if you just can't be bothered to try and keep them safe, asshole.
Yeah, and Raylan does, to his credit, Raylan does try to talk her through this, and he does it. I'll meet you at this diner nearby, but just as we're starting to get to that, this is Ava furiously packing, and she hears a key in the door, and she's got to shut down the phone call. Goodbye.
Yep.
And then it's Boyd, who is again doing the worst possible thing he could be doing right now.
And Boyd is so sweet to her because he has no idea.
Yeah.
You can tell something's wrong, but yeah.
She said she's homesick. She wants to go home and sleep in their own bed.
Mm-hmm.
Then she says she wants to tell him something, and Boyd cuts her off because he's so wrapped up in his own plans.
You dummy, Boyd.
Do you think that she was going to spill it?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if she was going to spill it so much as just be like, so I have to tell you that Catherine basically, like, threatened me. I don't know what that would look like without the context. How would she threaten her? Why would she do that? You know? But I really don't feel like she was about to just tell him the truth. I guess, though, she's got solid motivation, like, because part of me is like, why would she do that? To stay alive. It doesn't get much more high stakes than that. That's the only way to convince Boyd to get the fuck out of here, probably, is to be like, she will literally be ready to kill me in like a couple hours. But that all depends on her really, really believing that if Boyd found out, he wouldn't kill her.
Yeah.
I don't think he would. It doesn't feel like that to me with them. But, you know, people do things in the heat of the moment that, you know, if they had thought about it for a second, they would never have done. So... Yeah.
That's a very good question, is what would he do when he finds out, or if he finds out. I will say, though, she has a look on her face when she says there's something we need to talk about that makes me think she's about to tell him something that's going to be really, really hard for her to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that would be, Catherine doesn't like me.
No, I think you're right. Yeah.
So, it's a big jump to say that she is going to spill the beans on this whole operation.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I don't know. But it's an interesting moment that the episode doesn't really dwell on.
Mm-hmm.
Because Boyd has all the momentum, in this scene. He's the whirling dervish.
Yeah, that's true.
Around this scene. And again, he's so wrapped up in his plan that he is basically going to steal Avery Markham's idea to sell legal weed.
Which I just, like... I guess I just feel like Boyd always has to have an idea that somebody has already had or is already into. And he's like, we don't have to go anywhere. We're going to have everything. Why don't you just go, dude? Like, just go. I just don't know where he finds the fucking energy, frankly, to constantly be ready to risk it all. You know what I mean? Like this dude's on top of it. He has better people than you, objectively. He has more insider knowledge than you because he knew this before you did. He has more capital than you, clearly. Everything about his operation is superior to yours, including the fact that he had a reputation even when you were a child. And still, you didn't suspect him. Like, he was a scary dude who was around, but his name is not, like, this man is good. Like, just don't.
Well, I wonder if it's a little bit of Arlo in him, just looking for that big score. This is it. This is the one. This is going to be the big score where I'm finally going to get to settle down.
Mm-hmm.
And that score is never going to come together.
Yeah, I think so.
Is it? I don't know. We got 9 episodes left. But you know what? I wonder if there is just that drive. And, he can't quite leave well enough alone. Not that he's in a great place at the moment, especially when he just got covered in another man's emulsified viscera. But, it really is kind of crazy that he can't just accept things the way they are because he sees this better, brighter future.
I just don't understand. Like, and again, this is what separates someone like me from a criminal, is just how bad it could potentially be. So far outshines how good it could potentially be. Like, let's be honest, even if this did wind up taking off, you still live in fucking Kentucky. Like, how good is that really? He says something about, my legs wouldn't look good in those bathing suits. And I'm like, yo, dude, I know that you're trying to be cute and everything, but fuck you. Give me a beach. Like, this is not a joke. I'm not playing with you. And I kind of wanted her to, like, be a little, clearly her mind is somewhere else, but I kind of just wanted her to just be like, what? Just on the, just out of sheer principle of the matter.
Yeah. And I will also say this show likes to parallel Boyd and Raylan. I wonder if that's that much different than Raylan, who, again, can't leave well enough alone, can't focus on the task at hand because he has this drive to go. okay, we're going to arrest Boyd Crowder, fantastic. But there's also this Avery Markham guy, and these people buying up all this land, and this, he cannot focus on a thing because he's always looking at the next thing. He's always looking at a bigger thing, and it's part of what makes him a good cop, but it's also part of what makes him an insufferable human being.
I feel him on that a little bit too. I could be a little bit that way, where I just can't enjoy the thing because I'm too busy thinking about the next thing. We're all like that to a degree.
I think we are. It's
the human condition. Am I right?
But maybe so. But they tell us to try to be content with what we have. There's that Bean Eaters poem about the old people who are poor, but they have each other and their beans for dinner, and so they're happy.
Old people shouldn't be eating beans. That's bad for your intestines.
But they're happy.
That's too hard on them. They're happy. I hope they must not have any sense of smell left. Probably that's why they're happy.
So yeah, Boyd is off and running, and like you said, he tells Ava that they are. They don't have to go anywhere at all. They're staying right here. And then he, again, human whirling dervish, spins off in another direction, and Ava completely has a meltdown for about a second and a half and then pulls it together.
Yep.
And again, great bit of totally silent acting.
Oh my God, she's so good. Yeah. Yeah, that's a rough thing to watch. Just like, I just don't know, like, and now he's here. Can she go? Is she going to go to the fucking diner? Like, what is she going to do? I don't know what she can do.
Yeah, I don't know. So her options are severely limited when they're in these close quarters. So we shall see.
Dun, dun, dun. So yeah, that's the end of the episode, right? That's it.
That's it.
Oh, that's so weird. I went to reach for my mouse because I had the episode up and I have it plugged in on the other side, and I'm just like grabbing at air. Where's my mouse? So yeah, I'm really enjoying this season so far. It's been very different than what I don't even know what I expected. I say that. I'm not really even sure what that means, but. Well,
I believe you said you were excited for a heist.
Oh yeah, that's true. Where's my heist? God damn it.
Well, it's sort of what we're getting. They're cracking a safe in a pizza place bank full of criminals, but it's a very slow heist.
Yeah, I think that I expected it to be like Leverage, where there was going to be like another a heist every week kind of thing, and then eventually they'd have like their big heist that they would do. But that's assuming that the heisters are our very main characters, and that is not how the show is set up. So,
right. But good. I'm glad. I know you said you were kind of lukewarm on the first episode of the season, and I'm glad that it's picking up for you, because it really is one of my favorites.
Right on. Well, that bodes well. All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap this sucker up. So everybody, I want to say hi to new patrons real quick. This week we have Cassandra Hall, Carrie DeWalt, Barbara Anderson, Amber Camacho, Caitlin Lavery, Jason Lewis, and Leah Thompson all became patrons. So welcome to all of you. A few of you have pledged at the $5 and up mark and at the $10 and up mark, which means that you are going to get a patrons postcard next month. For September, which I have already ordered, and they are in the mail, and I'll post pictures as soon as I get them. But they are going to be 2 bookmarks that you can like cut down the middle of the postcard and have 2 bookmarks. And if you listen to the Harry Potter podcast, the bookmarks are an inside joke from there.
I love the design on those. I really do. I showed it to Amanda, and then I realized she doesn't listen to the Harry Potter podcast, and so she has no idea. Yeah, no clue. And I had to explain them, but luckily, as we talked about, jokes are always the best when you have to explain them.
Exactly. So I'm sure she was laughing uproariously by the end, and you had a real bonding moment over it.
It really was. It took our relationship to a whole new level.
That's what my show's all about, helping people in their relationships. So that, and then $5 and up, you'll get access to Twin Peaks, which I'm still working on with Maggie. We had to take a couple weeks off because her kids are home from school, and she traveled to see the eclipse, which is fun. But we will be starting on the movie next week. And I know I'm forgetting something. This always makes me crazy. And Akio Box, our sponsor, until the 4th of September, This is more for patrons because it will be over by the time this posts to iTunes. But they are going to be donating, I think, 15% of their profits from new signups from the 30th of August to the 4th of September to a nonprofit helping victims of the flooding in Houston.
Awesome.
Which I think is a really cool idea. So, yeah, everybody, if you're interested in an AkioBox and you want to help out several people at once, you'll be helping out a small business that's AkioBox. You'll be helping out me by giving me a little bit of a commission, and you'll be helping out people who have lost everything.
Yeah, speaking of the flood, by the way, just for those of our listeners who don't know Texas geography, you guys are good?
Yes, we are an hour and a half north of Houston. So we are just north enough that it didn't touch us at all. Like,
cool.
It didn't even rain, I don't think.
That's disappointing. Any rain?
It was fine. It was very overcast, so it got cool for a little while, which I enjoyed thoroughly. But yeah, the flooding we haven't seen the actual flooding, but today I went out with a friend and we had to stop for gas, and you cannot find a gas station that doesn't have 30 cars in it because the flooding has washed out a bunch of oil rigs. So gas prices are about to jump. They already went up 20 cents overnight.
And I saw they just shut down the pipeline that supplies a lot of gas to the Northeast. So I'm expecting we're going to see our gas prices jump pretty high the next couple of weeks too. Yeah. So if you guys would like to donate to me so I can afford the gas to get to work, I would be very, very appreciative.
Right. I just can't. I was not prepared for it. I didn't even think about it. And then we stopped at a gas station. It was oddly busy, but I was like, oh, that's weird. And then we went to another one and it was the same thing. And I was like, oh no. Okay. And we were at this one spot and this guy was clearly had a trailer of all of his stuff with him. And he said something, we heard him talking to somebody, and he was like, I haven't gotten a shower in 2 days. I'm trying to find some place that I can just hole up for a little while. I was like, Jesus Christ. Yeah. So, yeah, guys. Anyway, AkioBox.com if you'd like to sign up for that. It's a monthly Harry Potter subscription box. I did an unboxing with Rashawn, which I posted on YouTube, and it's on the Facebook page for the show. It was super fun to do. We got adorable stuff. I really enjoyed it, and I am hoping that I can actually get another one. I think as far as promo boxes go, we just get one, but I really would kind of like to sign up for the Halloween box that they're going to have coming up. But I hear that they are very close to sold out. Yeah, they sell out every month pretty much. So if y'all are interested in getting an either October box or a Halloween box, because they have two separate ones, you're going to want to do that ASAP because they are about to be sold out. I think that's everything. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So you guys know where to find us. Facebook.com/UnspoiledPod, Twitter at Unspoiled Show, Instagram at Unspoiled Podcast. I'm on Instagram at The Glamour Junkie, and I'm on Twitter at Natasha Writing. Sir, take it away.
All right. Well, you guys know where to find me, too. I'm at Al Kingsley on Twitter. I am delightful on Twitter, so I strongly encourage that you follow me. I retweet a lot of very funny things and take credit for them. You can find me here talking about Justified for the next 9 episodes. And you can find me hanging around most of the Unspoiled pages time and again. So come say hi to me. Comment on my posts. Make me feel loved.
Aww. All right, everybody. Well, thank you again so much for listening. Hope you have been enjoying the show, and we will see you next week with a new episode. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some? I'm fighting for my soul. God, get at you, boy. You try to go fall back, I go hard. On this lonely road, trying to make it home, doing it by my lonesome, pissed off, who wants some? I see them long. Son, prepared to kill, son. Paradox of pain, baby, is real, son. Lonely traveler, ain't trying to rowdy up, but if you're feeling tough, dog, I walk up all challenges. Ain't got no family.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.